Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with a review of an exploitation slasher splatter film from 1982 from the Italian um director, the Italian godfather of gore, Lucio Fulci, director of Zombie 2, City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, and Cat in the Brain, all films I have reviewed on my channel. And tonight's movie is The New York Ripper. Before I get to the plot, I'd like to say this film was banned in many countries, and or it was either released under an X rating or whatever the equivalent of the X rating was in whatever country after it had been edited down quite a bit. But while most of Fulci's other films have been released uncut in the UK, The New York Ripper, to this day, still remains censored. So, this movie is about a police detective who teams up with a college psychoanalyst to track down a vicious serial killer who sounds like Donald Duck. I'm not even joking. They don't tell you that on IMDb. I'm telling you that now. Our film begins innocently enough, with an old man, walking and playing fetch with his dog, before throwing the stick in a bush and the dog brings back a rotted, severed hand and credits. Once those are over, we meet our police lieutenant, who is investigating the murder. He interviews the dead girl's landlord, who is talking about who's talking about the dead girl, and talking about um, how the landlord is talking about herself, saying, I got this weird phone call while I was trying to watch Dallas, that show on TV about the family with a bunch of money, and I'm like, wow, that's really, really 80s. And so she goes on with the story saying how someone called the girl's phone, and the man sounded like she didn't say Donald Duck, but I'm going to assume what she means to say is he sounded like Donald Duck, and says that he made an appointment to meet her somewhere. So next we have a girl on a bike who runs into a sexist guy in a car, and she's followed on a ferry boat by a strange man in a car who's watching her as she gets on the boat. So she parks her bike, and when the sexist guy is out of his car, she breaks into his car and starts writing something on his windshield in lipstick. The killer gets in the car, and then they have a bit of a conversation, and then the killer pulls out a knife. And he does sound like Donald Duck. And she can't escape from the car. She's murdered. And I mean, she is fucking carved. And not gonna lie, it was actually pretty graphic for Fulci. So they discover the corpse in the car, and an autopsy is done on the corpse, and the coroner says that the murder could be connected to another murder, which happened to another girl. And then the one guy's boss shows up at the station telling him not to publicize the killings, making it seem like Jack the Ripper is back from the dead or some shit like that. So the guy sounds like a duck. So the guy that sounds like a duck calls for the lieutenant, and the cop goes to talk to the psychoanalyst so he can get like a psychological profile on the killer, and the two agree to collaborate and help and work on this case together. And next we see a guy go into a porno theater, and he looks around at people inside, and there's a woman sitting across from him who looks rather suspicious, and she starts to masturbate in the theater. Wow. So this goes on for a while, and she records herself with a tape recorder, and then leaves right when the show's over. As the next show is about to start, the star of the previous show goes backstage, and the lighting in the film suddenly becomes a mixture of the lighting from Suspiria and the lighting from Vamp, which both had very cool looking, very cool and very stylized and cool lighting. And it definitely works here. It adds a bit more of a creepy tone to the movie. Well, at least to this scene. Then we see the guy who went into the theater in the first place isn't there, and the woman backstage is stabbed in the vagina with a broken glass bottle. That was kind of brutal. So the next day, our cop gets a call from Donald, who says he committed another murder, and I have to apologize for this, but the dubbing for the killer is just so so cheesy and funny that any scene where he's talking on the phone or threatening someone is probably just the funniest thing in the movie, and it's not even meant to be a comedy. Um, so um, that's where I kind of ended it. Will the Ripper be stopped? Can he be stopped? Is he a duck? Who is he? Why does he fucking sound like Donald Duck? And why does it even matter? It's a Fulci film. So, as expected, we are going to have very bad acting, very bad writing. Well, it wasn't very very bad, but it was pretty bad. Um, and as I've said many times, a film from this director is not complete without very cheesy dubbing. Um, you could probably find this movie with its original Italian audio track, but I've never seen a Fulci film without the cheesy dubbing because it just makes the movie more enjoyable. And usually I'm the kind of person that says no, dubs aren't good, but when it comes to Fulci, they are fucking fantastic. In a bad way. The effects are all well done, as with almost any Fulci film for the time, they're very well done. Today they look a little, tiny bit cheap, but they still look pretty good. Uh, the camera work in this movie is really good. The lighting, especially the lighting in certain scenes, is really good. Like better than better than I've seen from Fulci. Um, but then again, he's not really in charge of the lighting in the film, is he? But still, it's better than some of the lighting I've seen in his movies. Uh, on the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like The Corpse Grinders, and 10 being something like Brain Dead. This movie's a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10, somewhere around there. I mean, it's pretty explicit. Like, even by my standards, it's decently explicit. Um, a very controversial film for its violence, and like almost all the violence is directed towards women. So feminists will hate this movie. Anybody who is, very sensitive to subjects like kind of subjects that are that women don't really like to talk about, like women being assaulted or sexually assaulted, stuff like that, domestic abuse. People like that probably wouldn't want to watch this movie or be interested in it or like it. Even some of the biggest fans of Fulci absolutely hate this film. Like they'll love all of his other movies, even his earlier films before he did splatter films, and they will still look at this movie and say it is just not a good movie because of the nature of the violence in the film. There's like maybe one scene where there's maybe 1 or 2 scenes where there's some violence towards men, but the rest of it is directed towards women. Um, I can't say I was thoroughly offended by the movie, but then again, I'm not a feminist. I'm not very um offended. I'm not easily offended. I'm not sensitive to subjects as like women being assaulted or domestic abuse. I really none of those things really bother me that much. So I gotta say this is a pretty good slasher film. Um, And I think I may have a new favorite Fulci film. This may have beaten Cat in the Brain for me. May have. I'm still kind of thinking about it. This may be a tie with Cat in the Brain. But definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen this one. If you're a fan of Lucio Fulci's films, 5 out of 5 stars. It is the what I like. I think I have a new kind of nickname for this movie. It's the Italian equivalent to Maniac. I think that can sum it up pretty well. Anyway, guys, um, I'm Biscuit Boost 69. The links to the social media stuff, my podcasts, all that is in the description below. Uh, like, comment, subscribe if you guys want. I'm Biscuit Boost 69 signing off. Peace.
You're listening to a demo for